Law. Don't trust your friends completely. Learn to use your enemies. Law formulation. Be wary of your friends. They are more likely to betray you, as they're easily envied. They also quickly become spoiled brats and tyrants. But recruit a former enemy, and he'll be more loyal than a friend, because he has something to prove. Indeed, you should fear your friends more than your enemies. If you don't have enemies, find a way to make some. Breaking the law. In the mid-9th century, the young Emperor Michael III ascended the throne of the Byzantine Empire. His mother, Empress Theodora, was exiled to a monastery, and her lover, Theoctistos, was murdered. The conspiracy that overthrew Theodora and elevated Michael to the throne was led by Michael's uncle, Bardas. Michael, then a young, inexperienced ruler, was surrounded by schemers, murderers, and embezzlers. To make a good enemy, choose a friend. He knows where to strike. Diana de Poitiers, 1499 to 1566, the mistress of Henry II of France. They had met several years earlier. Michael arrived at the stables, and at that very moment, a wild horse broke free. Basil, a simple young groom from a Macedonian peasant family, saved Michael's life. The youth's strength and courage captivated Michael. Michael lavished gifts and honors on his friend, and they soon became inseparable. Basil was sent to study at the best educational institution in Byzantium. Every time I fill a vacant position, I produce hundreds of disgruntled people and one ingrate. Louis Chief, 1638到1715. Having become emperor, Michael needed a loyal friend. To whom could he entrust the post of court administrator? Michael loved Basil like a brother, and believed he would be easily trained for his new duties. Despite the advice of those who recommended the far more knowledgeable Bardas, Michael chose his friend. Basil studied well and soon advised the emperor on all matters of state. The only problem was, money. Basil was always short of it. His desire to match the splendor of the Byzantine court made him greedy for the benefits of power. Michael doubled, then tripled, his salary. Then he ennobled him and married him to his favorite, Eudoxia. No price seemed too high to retain his loyal friend and competent advisor. But the troubles were just beginning. Bardas held the post of commander-in-chief, and Vasily convinced Mikhail that his uncle's ambitions were unreasonable. Hoping to control his nephew's actions, Bardas helped him ascend the throne through conspiracy. Vasily dripped poison into Emperor Mikhail's ear until he agreed to assassinate his uncle. During a major equestrian competition, Vasily's men surrounded Bardas in the crowd. Then he was killed with a blow to the back. Vasily soon requested to be appointed commander of the army in place of the deceased Bardas, so that he could oversee the situation in the country. From then on, Basil's power and wealth grew unchecked, and a few years later, Michael, having fallen into financial difficulties, asked him to repay some of the money he had lent him over the years. Michael was simply stunned to hear Basil's refusal, which was given to him with a completely innocent air. Only then did the emperor realize this former stable boy had more money. A few more weeks passed, and, waking up after a drunken night, Michael found himself surrounded by soldiers. Basil watched as they murdered the emperor. Then, proclaiming himself emperor, he rode through the streets of Byzantium, brandishing a long pike with the head of his former benefactor and best friend impaled on its end. As for myself, I was once deceived by a man I loved beyond measure, and in whose love I believed more than anyone else. Baldassare, Castiglione, 1478到1529. Interpretation. Mikhail III relied on the gratitude he believed Basil felt. Lee, of course, he had to serve him faithfully. As he rose to power, Vasily received everything he needed, and this strengthened the bonds of friendship. The emperor realized his mistake too late. He had created a monster. He had allowed a man who wanted more, who was accustomed to getting everything he wanted, who was burdened by kindness. At the moment when Mikhail realized the true state of affairs, he could still have saved his life, but friendship and love are blinding. God protect me from friends. I will take care of my enemies myself. Voltaire. Observance of the law. For centuries after the fall of the Han Dynasty, 222, Chinese history repeated the same pattern of brutal coups. Military officials would conspire to assassinate a weak emperor, replacing him on the dragon throne with a strong warlord, who would found a new dynasty. To be the Emperor of China meant being a lonely man surrounded by enemies. In 956, General Zhao Kuangyan became Emperor Song. He knew he would likely be assassinated within a year or two. He ordered a banquet in honor of the new dynasty and invited the most powerful military leaders. After much wine had been consumed, he expelled the guards and all guests except the military, who feared they would soon be killed. Instead, he addressed them. I spend all my days in fear. I find no joy in feasting, and I have no peace at night. For which of you does not dream of ascending the throne? If you agree to resign your posts, I am ready to provide you with fine estates and magnificent palaces. The astonished generals realized that, instead of a life of anxiety and struggle, Emperor Song was offering them wealth and security. The next day, they all resigned and retired honorably. With one blow, Xiao transformed a pack of friendly wolves, who would likely have betrayed him, into a flock of submissive lambs. Over the following years, Emperor Song continued his efforts to secure his reign. In 971, Prince Liu of southern Han capitulated after years of rebellion. To Liu Yu's astonishment, the emperor granted him a position in the imperial court and invited him to the palace. Accepting the cup Emperor Song offered him, Liu hesitated, fearing the wine might be poisoned. He groaned, "Your slave certainly deserves death for his crimes, and yet I beg your majesty for the gift of life." Emperor Song laughed and drank the wine himself, taking the cup from Liu. It was poison-free. From then on, Liu became his most loyal and devoted friend. At that time, China was fragmented into many small principalities. When Shenzhou, the prince of one of them, was defeated, they presented documents proving that the prince still intended to assassinate the emperor. However, when Shenzhou appeared before the emperor, he received him with honor. He handed the former prince a package, which he instructed him to open halfway home. Opening the package on the way back, Shenzhou discovered all the documents incriminating him. Such generosity disarmed him, and he later became one of Emperor Song's most loyal vassals. Giving a speech at the height of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln spoke of Southerners as neighbors. "Consider, madam," Lincoln replied, "am I not destroying my enemies when I make them my friends?" Interpretation: a Chinese proverb compares friends to the jaws and teeth of a dangerous animal. Emperor Song didn't measure his strength against his friends. He bought off the generals and kept them at bay. Instead of relying on friends, the Song emperor transformed one by one his enemies into his most trusted allies. While a jealous friend expects ever greater favors, these former enemies expected nothing and received everything. A man who escaped the guillotine is truly grateful and will go to the ends of the earth for his savior. Keys to power. It's natural to try to enlist the help of friends when you need it. The world is a harsh place, and your friends often soften its harshness. The trouble is, you often don't know your friends as well as you think. Friends often agree with you simply to avoid arguing. Many believe that a wise prince should, when circumstances permit, skillfully create enemies for himself. If you decide to hire a friend, you will gradually discover qualities they had previously concealed. Ingratitude has a long and profound history. Better to be on guard. If you don't expect gratitude from friends, its sincere expression will be a pleasant surprise. The difficulty with using or hiring friends is that it inevitably limits your power. All work situations require a certain distance between people. You're trying to work, not be friends. Your enemies are an untapped goldmine you must learn to exploit. His choice fell on Joseph Fouch, the head of the secret police, the most hated enemy. A Brahmin, a great scholar, met his old friend, who had become king. The king looked at him with disdain. Whenever possible, try to make peace with your enemy and find a way to enlist him in your service. As Lincoln said, you destroy an enemy by making him a friend. If we have no enemies around us, we can become lazy. Mao Zedong viewed conflict as the foundation of his rise to power. Mao's strategy of constant conflict, consists of several key components. Never let the presence of an enemy throw you off track. It's much better to have one or two clear opponents. The snake, the peasant, and the heron. A snake, being chased by hunters, begged a peasant to save its life. Moral: if you see water flowing uphill, Someone has repaid kindness with kindness. Authority opinion. Know how to use your enemy for your own gain. Reverse side. While it's generally best not to mix friendship with service, there are times when a friend proves more useful than an enemy. Finally, sharing affairs with friends leads to a blurring of the boundaries. On the benefit of our enemies, once, when King Hero was conversing with one of his enemies, it is clear, therefore, that we are more likely to learn of obvious, manifest, and noticeable defects from our enemies than from our friends or relatives.